All right. So one thing I wanted to talk about today is going to be fiber. When you look at when you look at nutrition as a whole, people typically only look at it as far as protein, carbs, fats, calories, but they never consider the fiber intake. Um, and when we really look at it as a whole, just ignoring fiber or just skipping fiber or just not thinking it's that important can really backfire on you. So we're going to talk, today a little bit about, what is fiber, why do you need fiber, how to incorporate it, things of that nature. But first off, what is fiber in itself? So fiber is a type of carbohydrate that our body just cannot digest. Unlike sugars and starches, which break down into glucose, fiber actually travels through the digestive tract, mostly intact. Um, and there are two main types. So you have soluble and then you have insoluble fiber. So soluble fiber dissolves in water, forming a gel-like substance. And these are found in foods such as like oats, apples, beans, things like that. And it's going to help lower cholesterol and stabilize blood sugar levels as well too. And then you have insoluble fiber, which in the name kind of explains itself. It does not dissolve in water, and it adds bulk to your stool, um, helping move food through that digestive tract. You'll find these in things like nuts, whole grains, many vegetables, things like that. One thing to think about is if you're having like a very loose stool, um, such as like diarrhea, right? Take a look at your fiber intake, and if it's too low, consider adding insoluble fibers specifically, basically because it's going to add bulk to that stool, which can help harden things up, just kind of to put it bluntly, and help things move along through the digestive tract. So why do we even need fiber? So, if we look at it from a digestive health standpoint, insoluble fiber specifically kind of acts like a broom. Once you eat it, it just as it gets pushed, through the digestive tract, it's just like a broom. It just kind of pushes everything through. It kind of sweeps your digestive system clean and kind of helps reduce the risk of constipation. It also is going to help support gut health by nourishing the beneficial gut bacteria in your gut microbial, which are obviously very critical for immune function and just general well-being in itself. Now, a lot of people don't know that you like have to feed that gut bacteria good food. And if you don't feed it good food, you're going to get that balance of good bacteria and bad bacteria out of whack. And then that's what causes like, GI issues, gut issues, things like that. Um, and then if we look at soluble fiber, so soluble fiber is going to bring about these short chain fatty acids, which produce acetate. I don't want to mess this up. Butyrate and propionate. Pro, propionate, I think is how you pronounce that. So anyway, so what that does inside of the gut microbial is a number of things. So it does appetite regulation, intestinal barrier functioning. So it kind of helps with like the leaky gut syndrome, insulin signaling, lipid metabolism, pathogen suppression, and can help with preventing cancer in your colon specifically. And then if you want to, look at how it helps heart health, soluble fiber actually binds to cholesterol in your digestive tract, helping lower that LDL or your bad cholesterol. And it can also do this with hormones as well too, such as removing excess estrogen when it's excreted through the GI tract. If you don't have enough fiber, you may end up seeing some high estradiol levels in your blood work. Now, am I saying that's the root cause that you have high estradiol? Probably not. But if you don't have enough fiber, it's not. There's no way to clear that out of your system if you don't have something to bind to it and then carry it out. So that's definitely something to keep in mind as well too. And then just a regular fiber intake is going to be associated with a reduced risk of heart disease and hypertension. If you guys go look at a box of like Quaker oatmeal, things like that, they always have on there, heart health safety or something like that, and it's valid. That's an actual valid claim that they can put on there. And then it helps with weight management, obviously. I like to add in fibrous veggies to clients' meal plans if they're in a cutting phase and they are getting hungry. This is going to add a ton of volume to their actual meals in itself, and it just helps keeps them fuller for longer without adding in a ton of calories. And this can obviously help you. This can help prevent you from overeating if you feel more satiated. I would much rather that you overeat on green beans than I don't know, almond butter or just snacking on something else, right? Like overeating on green beans and broccoli and leafy vegetables is 1,000 times better than overeating on something else that's super high calorie. And then it helps regulate blood sugar levels as well too. So soluble fiber actually slows the absorption of sugar, preventing those blood sugar spikes and crashes. And then for people with diabetes or ones who are actually trying to prevent getting type 2 diabetes, fiber is a really good thing to be sure that they have in their diet as well too. And then, kind of like what we just mentioned earlier, it can help reduce the risk of cancer. I don't know how like what the percentages are. I would assume it's I wouldn't say it's like super high, but obviously a high fiber diet it is linked to a lower risk of colorectal cancer. So and basically it just helps eliminate toxins from the digestive tract as well too. If you think about kind of how we mentioned earlier that fiber like sweeps, through the digestive tract and just like pushes things through. Well, it's obviously going to collect a bunch of stuff in there too. And if it's collecting toxins and things that are just sitting in there, obviously getting that out of your system is better than it sitting there and fermenting and doing God knows what inside of your intestinal tract. So now we jump into the nitty gritty of things. How much fiber do you actually need? A ton of adults, including myself, struggle with just getting enough fiber on a daily basis. And there's really two ways to look at this. So if you're a male, anywhere from 30 to 38 grams a day is fine. Females is 21 to 25 grams a day. Or if you want to look at it from a different perspective, every 1,000 calories that you eat, 14 grams of fiber should be added in. Now, if somebody is eating 5,000 calories a day and you do the math on that, right? 14 times five, right? That's what, 70 grams of fiber. That's not going to be good, right? That's probably going to cause you a lot of discomfort, things of that nature. So typically I just cap it at that 38 number. Like I'm eating 5,200 calories a day now. There's no way on God's green earth that I'm eating 70 some odd grams of fiber a day. I probably wouldn't be able to go to the bathroom for a week. So I typically cap anybody at that 38, 40-ish number somewhere in there. And now, if you're not used to eating a good bit of fiber, obviously, increase that intake very gradually, anywhere from like, 3 to 5 grams a day, or not a day, 3 to 5 grams a week, to keep from having digestive issues, constipation, things like that. Um, and another thing that a lot of people don't think about is water. If you don't have enough water in your system as well, too, it's kind of defeating the whole purpose of the fiber sweeping things out, right? If you think about it, if you just put one big blob of fiber on your stomach and you don't have enough water in your stomach to help keep the motility of that moving, you essentially just put a cement brick in your stomach, right? It's not going to move. So you need water, obviously, to help with a ton of things, but that's going to help keep that food mobile and keep it moving instead of it just sitting there. Um, and one question that a lot of people bring up is, do you actually track fiber? Because soluble fiber is going to have 2 calories per gram, where insoluble fiber has 0 calories per gram. So a lot of people think that insoluble you can just eat as much as you want, and to an extent, I guess that is true, kind of. I guess if you want to look at it from, you write it down on paper, it has 0 grams. I should be able to eat as much as I want since it's nothing, right? But in essence, it's not. The biggest thing here, though, is if you are tracking it, you just need to be consistent, with your approach. Don't track it one week and then not track it the next week, because it's really going to throw things off, not from a caloric standpoint in itself, but from maybe even, a digestive standpoint the next week. Like if one week if you have 10 grams of fiber in your diet, and again you're not tracking it, and then the next week you have 50, something's going to happen. You're probably going to get very bloated. Digestion is going to come to a very slow crawl, and constipation is probably about to occur. So again, as long as you track it, well, either you track it or you don't. Just be very consistent, with your approach, and then you're good either way. Typically, what I like to do is have somebody have an actual fiber goal for the day. So I'll tell you, hey, I want you to have, XYZ number of fiber a day. If they can't figure that out off of their, daily caloric needs. So like, Jacob, if you eat, 3,000 calories a day, from what I've told you, three times 14 is, what, 42, and that the cap is 38, right? So, somewhere in that high 30s range is where that you probably need to be, especially since you're tracking macros, and along as Brian is as well too. That's kind of the the downside of people, tracking their own macros is cool as long as your protein, carbs, and fats and your total calories are hit for the day. That's cool. But if we're just eating a chicken and rice, chicken and rice, chicken and rice for all meals, you're missing out on a ton of fiber, and you're probably about to have some, digestive issues on the back end as well too. Um, and so, how to actually add that to your diet? Super easy. Whole grain cereals, oatmeal, chia seeds, flax seeds, if you want to add that into like smoothies and stuff. Raw veggies, apples, pears, berries. I'm a big fan of just having fruit in general sometime during the day. That's why I have a ton of you guys eating blueberries in the morning, and I have a lot of people eating, fruit throughout the day as well too. Particularly not around a workout. So like, this is kind of getting off topic, but obviously the bolus of your carbohydrates need to be peri-workout, pre, intra, and then post workout. But if you still have some carbohydrate allotment for the day, big advocate of fruit, apples, berries, things like that. I mean, you just can't go wrong with them. And there's nothing wrong with fruit toast, which that gets a bad rap for some reason, and that might be another topic for another time. But and then obviously, you can add in Metamucil, was it Benefiber, things like that. And then my favorite, which is that a psyllium husk. And I like to add that in like 10-gram increments at a time. I know I said, 3 to 5 grams initially, but with this fiber supplement, it's kind of like you're getting the fiber here instead of like if you're just adding like a ton of like veggies and stuff, like this big thing of veggies to get this amount, but I'm just adding a very small amount of this, like, husk to, to get that number. That's okay to do, but if you do that, make sure that you like split it up. So don't take the whole thing at one time. Like if you're doing 10 grams, 10, I like to do three and three. So 10 or three in the morning, three around lunchtime, and then three at night at some point. Just, kind of spread that out. And that'll, kind of help you stay fuller during the day. And then one thing to keep in mind about the psyllium husk, if you have never tried it before and you put it in some water and you let it sit for like 30 seconds, it turns into applesauce. So you will either A, be throwing that away and mixing another batch, or B, eating a clear, nasty, tasteless applesauce. So the best way to do it, just get you a little cup of water, already have it stirring, pour it in there, keep stirring it, and as it's still spinning, just drink it and just down it. Because again, it's going to turn into a gel. I wouldn't eat it if it's solidified up. I just say the heck with it. I'm just gonna get 10 more grams, whatever, and just be done with it. So, um, but at the end of the day, I don't need to stress to you too, but fiber is very important. Gotta have it. That's one of the first things that I look at if somebody tells me, hey, my digestion is messed up. I'm either very constipated or I'm bloated or something with my digestive tract is going wrong. Okay, cool. Well, let's look at your water intake. Let's look at your fiber intake. And they're kind of, vice versa. If your water intake's low, fibers, it's not going to give you that fiber, that mobility to move. And if your fiber is low, there's obviously not enough things in the digestive tract for that waste to bind to move through. So again, it's just more or less of let's check these very simple things first instead of trying to, oh, let's go through a gut protocol. Let's go through XYZ. No, let's look at the two basics, fiber and water, and you should be good. So, well, outside of that, you guys got any questions with anything at all?
The only thing I would ask is like, how do you, and maybe this is just like you kind of have to look it up on a case by case, like what's the general difference in like the types of foods that have insoluble versus soluble fiber?
Are you talking about um, like
Like if you
oats?
were aiming to have more soluble fiber versus insoluble, like I guess what foods like are in each of those categories?
Yeah, I mean, so like that soluble fiber, it's gonna think of that stuff as like it's gonna create a gel, right? It's soluble, so it's gonna when it's
Yeah,
mixed with something, it's gonna turn into a gel. So think of like oatmeal. If you pour water into oatmeal, it's going to turn into a gel substance, fairly quickly, right?
yeah,
And then if you think of things like apples and beans and like things like that, like those are soluble. But then if you think of like
got you.
insoluble, this might be like TMI, but corn, right? Like everybody eats corn.
Oh yeah.
Like how the heck does it go through me and come out the
Yeah.
same way, right?
Okay, that makes sense.
Perfect example right there.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
just the body can't break it down.
Yeah.
Whole grains, nuts, vegetables, things like that. And there is no like real like ratio of like, okay, I should have 40 grams of soluble and 60 insoluble.
Mhm.
There's no real like ratio of what to have, just as long as you
Got
have,
you.
a decent number,
Yeah.
according to what your caloric intake requires. So,
Got you.
so, but yeah, outside of that, I mean, I think it's very, very, very overlooked. But it's definitely something that people should definitely pay more attention to for sure. But
One question I had, Austin, I don't know where I heard it. It was maybe like a month or so ago, but is there any sort of, and maybe this is like the excessive amount of fiber, but like around macro or micronutrient deficiency from consuming fiber? Is that anything, is there any truth to that? I can't remember where I read that.
that's interesting.
There's something to the tune of like like the fiber binds to certain minerals, and it depletes it, but I could be making that up.
Well, I mean, so that could have some validity for sure, because if you remember, kind of towards the start of the lecture, it binds to cholesterol, and then it can bind to hormones as well too. So I would think that maybe some vitamins and minerals aren't excluded from that, and maybe it could. I think maybe one time I've heard that, and again, this could be totally wrong. Iron maybe, but I'm not sure. I had to look that up. But it's funny. I told y'all that I was going to do this lecture at 10:30, 11 o'clock, or whatever, and then I logged into my little mentorship thing, and the very next section is fiber. I'm like, damn, this works out great. Now I know I'm 100% correct on what I talk about today. But yeah, that wasn't brought up either. But I'll definitely have to look that up and just see that. That's definitely interesting. I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure that's probably got some validity to it for sure.
One I remember sticking out was like zinc, maybe. And
Mhm.
the only reason I remember that is because like I used to supplement with zinc and then I stopped because it was like I just didn't I was trying to get off of extra supplements
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, well shoot, now I'm taking a lot more um I'm eating a lot more fiber than I used to, so maybe it's would be good for me to go back on that.
And maybe, and again, I don't know, it could be the different kind of zinc, maybe. I know a lot of people just get zinc in general, like they type in Amazon, Google zinc, and they get the little, little 50 milligram, like the generic zinc. But really, they should be using zinc carnosine, the little 86-gram tablets. So again, it could be, there's several different kinds of zinc, just like there's several different kinds of magnesium. So yeah, I'll definitely have to look that up for sure and see if there's anything to that. I'm sure there is. Um,
That's good to know about the zinc carnosine too. I think I don't know what kind I take. I just take it as part of like my ZMA with my magnesium supplement. So I'm not sure what form it's in. I'll have to go look that up.
Yep. If you'll, I think I get mine from Nutricost, I think is what it is. Maybe if you can't find it, I can send you the link. But it's a 86 a milligram pill of zinc carnosine, um, and it's definitely a hell of a lot better than just the regular chalky zinc. That's probably doing you nothing.
Yeah.
If we're being honest. So and kind of what you're talking about as well too. Like it's hard to say like what supplements that you need. Because you could have 20 different coaches and 20 different coaches is gonna give you a base supplement plan that's probably gonna have the general basics on it, but this coach might add this and this coach might add this. So you might end up having 30 things that coaches say are needed, but are they really needed? Like, but I guess that's where a blood panel would come in. But then again, at that point, you're not eating the same foods year round. Your deficiencies are going
Mhm.
to, be altered to some degree. Um, that's why I think, I mean, also just taking a basic multivitamin is good too, just because it's a catch-all. That's what it is. I mean, if you're deficient in something, it's got so much crap in it that you probably aren't going to need any of this in this pill. But if you are a deficient, maybe just a little bit, it'll help boost it, and then you'll obviously
Mhm.
just piss out the rest. So, but. Well, anyway, outside of that, I appreciate you guys joining in for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's all I had for you guys today. There was something else I was going to tell you guys, but it just slipped my mind. So anyway, yep. I guess I'm gonna go eat this pre-workout meal and then head to the gym. So I will
Nice.
see you two in the morning as far as check-ins go, and then we'll roll from there.
Right. Sweet.
All
Yep.
right, see
Bye,
y'all.
guys.
See you, man.
See ya.